Okay, finally, now that we're happy with our D-Trip SO door seat, seat belt, steering wheel and mirrors, and our cockpit picture of use controls and instruments, and also the instructions that you will be given. There will be a level of instruction that you will be given about guide, prompts, independent and unassisted, which are your levels of skills that you go through all out your subjects. And also, when it goes to those instructions, they're recorded with a date of when you achieve that level, to hopefully show you how you might progress. One is skill introduced, maybe you've seen a demo, or that you've seen a situation that you've come across before, like a pedestrian crossing. But when it actually comes to guided, this is where you've maybe been asked a lot of questions and a full briefing on a subject if you should need that help. And then hopefully, if you want the extra help, you would be guided through the situation, which is lots of help. Prompt instruction is a level 3, which is a prompt instruction to not a full help of what you might need to do, but a little prompt as to what to do next, but a little less help than guided, but not quite an independent level where you're doing it with really vague help, which is the level 4, which is really vague help, to where then eventually when you reach that level 5, then you're doing this kind of independently on your own. Level 4s are like, what might you do now, what might you consist, and or whatever you might consider. So there's lots of things that you'd kind of go to an open question with, to hopefully see that your understanding is in place. But then that can move to a prompted question if there's one little thing that you didn't quite understand. And this can happen throughout the process and you learn to drive, and then hopefully the level 5 is where you find yourself doing things on your own, and that's when you know you're very close towards that practical test. But there is other elements that you need to make sure that you feel more confident with, like mock tests, and making sure that you feel competent, that you can drive unassisted for the rest of your life. Just remember that part of driving, there's a small part of driving which is the bit of learning to drive, but then the big entire piece of the rest of your life is the bit that's important. You need to be ready for that bit, that big bit for the entire life, not for the driving test. That's just a small snippet. All it is, it's just somebody they're meeting that a driving instructor has helped you through your course of what you're preparing yourself for the rest of your life. And that when you go to your driving test, that you're able to drive unaccompanied from that moment on for the rest of your life. And that's what it's all about. Make sure you're good for that end journey part. So into the move off and stop then. So in the move off stop, we go through what we call prepare, observe, maneuver. Sometimes you can refer it as the 3 Gs: get ready, get looking, get going. Quite simply, we need to get a car ready, preparing the car. So we go for our clutch down, so that's clutch all the way to the bottom. Engaging our gear by pushing the gear stick away from you and up for first gear. And then we set our gas just to a lively tone, so you can hear the engine at a lively tone. So set gas. Then lift your clutch so up to the biting point. Now once you reach the biting point, if you feel the car started to move with the handbrake still applied, just feed that clutch down a little bit, because maybe it's slightly set too high. But then be aware that it's not too low down, that when you release the handbrake you might roll back. But if that should happen, to try and lift your clutch up a little bit more, or bring the handbrake up. If you feel like you're still rolling back, clutch down onto brake, reapply the handbrake, start again with the procedure. So you're going to set gas, find that biting point, continue to look around. You hopefully would have been looking around whilst you're getting your gas and bite. Going for our left blind spot, left door mirror, glance forward centre, right blind spots, that 360 check. If the way is clear, then we kind of then safe to go. If you see it's safe to go, you might release the handbrake. But if for whatever reason you had to wait, you might consider waiting for whatever is passed to pass. Pedestrian on a pavement or a vehicle that's come out of a side road can also be included. Well, because you've been waiting a while, don't forget to consider rechecking. The other situation though, if you've had to wait for some time, but then a vehicle's now finished passing, but there is an opportunity to move away, but there is something around, you could consider applying the right signal with this. For now, on the first lesson, we won't worry about the signal, move on, off. We'll just make sure the way is clear before we move away. But if you feel like you can bring it in, and it's safe to do so, don't sit with the signal showing when you can't move out safely. Wait until vehicles are finished passing, you can move out. Consider bringing the signal if you'd like to. So you'd get the car ready, set gas, find the bite, do those checks, keep those feet very still. Now when you move your body around to have a look, it can move those feet, so be mindful to keep them steady and still. Once you've done your check, if you're still safe to move away, and consider signalling if you should need to, release the handbrake and consider moving away from the curb, usually to an all drive position at a metre from the curb. When you pull up on left, it's quite important to know that you've moved off of how to stop. So when we start, we need to go through what we call the mirror signal manoeuvre routine. So this is where we're looking for our central and left mirror to be aware of what might be behind, and also to our left because we're going to be prepared to move towards the left, near to the curb. We don't want to move to the curb yet though. We're going to get our mirrors applied first to make sure it is safe, then consider if there's anyone around to signal. When you've done your left signal, you would then move your foot away from that gas pedal to the brake pedal. Light pressure on your brake at this point because you're only travelling quite slowly. Bring your clutch down all the way quickly before the engine stalls. Now before you move to the curb, make sure this is complete. Onto your brake and your speed is reduced, clutch is down. Then we extend our view down the road to hopefully find ourselves reasonably close and parallel with the curb and pavement. Usually about half a metre, within half a metre or so, but not to the point where you're scraping the curb with your tyres, brakes, suspension. This could damage your vehicle. So I always advise you not to look in the left mirror as they do this. Do this if you've stopped. Because if you're looking left door, it shows what's happened behind. So what might happen if you've moved your steering wheel towards the curb and my finger was the curb, actually this shows the rear wheel. So there's your front wheel's now touching because you thought yours wide. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we extend our view, and you've probably done a very good way of steering in a straight line by looking well ahead. Continue to keep looking well ahead as you continue to move nearer to the curb, but do this at a very low pace. But then as your vehicle's almost stopped, try and relax that pressure further so your vehicle rolls gently to that smooth stop, and keep a light pressure on the brake though if you are travelling downhill, but maybe less than what you had before. When you keep your brake held as the vehicle starts with your clutch all the way down, you would then bring up your handbrake, which is what we call securing the car. So you would lift the handbrake up, make sure you're into the neutral gear position. Once you're in the neutral gear position, you should always cancel your signal once you've stopped. I'll normally cancel my signal. I always advise to cancel signal once you've stopped. Reason for it being is because then if you were to be asked to drive on again, you've still got that left signal showing. It could mislead other road users that you have the wrong signal showing. The other issue that if you have your lights on and then switch your engine off and you've left your indicator on, it leaves that side light on. So this might be handy though if you've parked in a situation where visibility is reduced. But if you want to return back to your car and someone's banging on your door saying you've left your light on, your battery could go flat. So it's worthwhile just make sure that signal is cancelled once your manoeuvre is complete, especially if you leave in your car, but also when you want to move away again. You will be asked to move away a number of times. And the only thing about this is that if you have still the wrong signal shown, this could miscommunicate to the drivers that you are parked rather than moving away. Hopefully we're clear on that. And what we're going to do is have a go at the move off and stop. So we'll I'll have to switch roles on this one because we don't have a student. Then we're going to do some 360 VR video, and hopefully that might help you with some bit more understanding and be able to see more of where your eyes need to be, and maybe you could start moving your eyes yourself in a way that would help you construct your first lesson. Okay, so this is where we're now going to move into that moving away. This first one will stay in first gear. I will explain a little bit about gear changes once we've done our first move off and stop. Now, depending on where you are in your lessons, your instructor will guide you in a way that if you've done this before, giving you less help if you require it and you move off and stop, and maybe even a slipping of a gear change. And then, then you would be hopefully just marks on those levels on where you would be, and if you have some areas that you would like to concentrate on, of course your instructor will help you with that. As far as it goes with the moving away, we need to think about getting our engine started, of course. So as we talked about in our cockpit drill, and when we secure a car, we go for handbrake and make sure it's in the neutral gear position. So I'm in the neutral gear position at the moment. So this car, you have to have your clutch down. There's no key on this one. It's actually a start button. So what I'm going to actually do is start the engine, and then I'm going to talk way through with the move off and stop. And then we'll move on to the gear change, and then I'll bring in that VR video so you can actually see a bit more constructively for you to see what you might be doing if you were maybe observing a little bit more yourself of what might be happening around you. So let's see how we go. So in order to move away then, so what I'm going to do to move away is I'm going to have to now press the clutch and press the start button in order to drive on. Because I'm safely in the neutral gear, I can safely rest the foot. Now I've also observed that when I've started the engine that all my warning lights are off. I have to press press this OK button if I should want to see the main instrument cluster for the digital speedo. But before we move away, we have to go through the prepare, observe manoeuvre, or the 3 Gs. Get ready, get looking, get going. So I'm already observing around as I press the clutch down to number 1 to see what my surroundings are through my mirrors and whether it is a safe situation to move when, how busy or occupied the road is. So in order to drive away, what I'm going to consider now is I've got my right hand to the steering wheel and my hand ready on the handbrake. I'm just going to set the gas, and I'm just going to lift the clutch when I can hear the engine at this purr. Lift my clutch up very slow to where it goes from this purr to a little grrr. Now, if I feel the car starting to move, you probably feel the car moving there. That's my biting point too high. So what I'm going to do is just remove some assistance away from that biting point. I press the clutch down just a whisker. And I've only moved it down like a width of a pound coin to stop the car from moving or to be too heavy on the load. Not to be here too long on the gas and bite, so what I'm going to do now is construct my observations. So I'm going to go from left blind spot, left door mirror, centre mirror and glance forward, right mirror and my right blind spot. Now if I feel the way is clear, I can safely release the handbrake and now feel the car starting to move, and I can bring both hands to the wheel now and begin to steer. Now there was no need to signal because there is no one around as I'm moving away at this point. But as my car gradually picks up speed, you'll hear the engine tone just settle. Now my engine tone is settled, my clutch can be gradually slowly released to the top, so down fast but up slow. Now to pull up on the left, I'm going to pull up before the junction, so I'm going to check my mirrors for left, indicate left, a light pressure to brake, clutch goes down quickly, easing the brake pressure off as I look forward, extending my view across the white lines across the junction to the other curve across the other side of the junction, steering slightly to the right to correct my angle. When I feel myself reasonably close past the curve, comes that smooth stop, so ease the pressure off. As the vehicle has come to a smooth stop, I need to secure the car, so I'm going to go handbrake up, put it into the neutral gear position, terminate the indicator if I hadn't already cancelled by steering left from right, then I can safely rest the feet. This car has the auto start technology on it. This is a handy feature because sometimes if you have stalled it will automatically recover. However though, if it doesn't automatically recover, you're going to have to try and consider bringing it back to the neutral gear position with a clutch down and handbrake on, restart the engine. Now if you have stalled though, we need to show our observation before moving away again. So something could have changed since we stalled and recovered. So you'd have to consider a good look round to make sure it is clear, then move away safely before anyone's affected. But if someone is affected and there is vehicles that are around, you should really wait until they've passed. If they're already passing, but do consider rechecking because sometimes people get impatient, don't they? If they are moving around, just wait. If it's a case of where though, then you are clear, then get that check and move away. Okay, so correct your gear, whatever it was. If you was in the wrong gear for the stall, use your gas and bike if you should need to. Okay, so when it comes to the next part of the exercise, we're going to bring in a gear change now. So I'm going to move off in the same way. You might be relaxed off of the instructions with the the instructor in the move off and the start, because you may have got to a competent level, but don't worry if you're hovering around a particular area. Now for gear changes, we have to do something simultaneous, which is, hope you know what simultaneous means, which is at the same time. As you're wishing to change gear, we move our hand to our gear stick first, so we know what gear in and where it wants to go. Our gas comes off and clutch down quickly at the same time. We push the gear stick away and down for a second gear, releasing the clutch up gradually, a bit faster than what you would when you're setting off, and then we gradually move back to our gas. Now when you do lift your clutch up, it has to receive to this biting point before it comes fine to the top. So you can lift it up quite quick, but then as the plates come together, we need to move our foot slower, so it smooths out that change, particularly when we've changed down gear. So what I'm going to do now is going to get myself ready to move away, so same as before. So I'm going to go clutch down into first gear. I'm going to start setting my gas so I'm at that lively tone, lift the clutch up very slow to where I've received that biting point, and then holding the foot very still. Now what I'm going to do now is go for a left shoulder check for my blind spot, left door mirror, glance forward with centre mirror and right blind spot. There is a child on a scooter, so this time I'm going to signal. Handbrake goes off as I finally release the handbrake and the shoulder check. As I feel the car up to speed, feel the engine tone settle, so I'm going to lift that clutch all the way to the top, increasing my speed by pressing the gas. Put my hand on the gear stick, off gas and clutch down simultaneously at the same time. Away and down for a second, push positively away, slowly back with the clutch and back to gas. Now I'm going to pull up on the left, so there's a vehicle behind, so I'm going to check my mirrors, signal left, reduce speed with the brake light as well, clutch goes down just at the last moment, finishing reasonably close and parallel to the curb. Now we don't want to be moving in too soonly when vehicles are coming up behind, because it might be miscommunicated that we're actually pulling in. So what we need to do is pull in at the last moment when our speed's at the lowest, so we don't damage the tyres, wheels, brakes, suspension, and endanger pedestrians on the pavement like the boy and the scooter, and that we don't confuse others around us. And then what I need to do now to secure the car is handbrake up, neutral gear, cancel signal, and rest feet. And that was the move off in first gear, change up to second. Now because we're stopping and we're not planning to move away again, we don't necessarily have to move him back to first gear. We're going to concentrate on the stop, allowing chance to keep both hands on the steering for longer and look carefully for how you're going to pull up and position rear close power to the curb. We'll move back to first gear if maybe you're short of the mark, or if maybe you was about to move away again at a traffic light or a junction or a queue or congestion. So if you're not planning on moving away, just afterwards, just leave it in the gear that you've been in before you've stopped. Just put it back to first when you desire to go again. Okay, so that's the move off, stop and gear change. Okay, so this is now a chance to see a little bit about what's going on down at our feet when we're starting the engine, setting off in first gear, and how we move our feet in our gear change, but also then how we move our feet when we stop. Okay, so this is the process of starting. My clutches go down. I've now started the engine. I'm in the neutral gear position so I can safely rest my foot. In order to drive on, I will need to now press down the clutch, move my gear stick into first gear. I'm setting the gas on, so you just maybe see my right foot just move just a little, just the tiniest bit. Lifting the clutch up so it goes to this purr, to this grrr. Feet really still. This is the biting point held just at the midpoint of the clutch pedal, arriving up to the top, to about halfway. Complete motivations, of course, but this is just concentrating on feet. Handbrake goes down. Slowly lifting the clutch bit by bit until the car's up to momentum. Now the clutch has arrived at the top, so I'm just getting enough speed. For gear change, off gas, clutch down, second, clutch goes back up. I've now rested my foot. Now considered stopping, so using the Mirison manoeuvring team at cover brake, reduce speed on brake with a signal for brake light, clutch goes down, easing the brake as our vehicle comes to the stop and gliding reasonably close power to the curb, easing off the pressure so the vehicle starts smoothly, barely much movement you probably see down there, just a light pressure held and gradually released. Handbrake comes on, into the neutral gear position, and now I'm safe to rest those feet. So this is the process of moving off, well, starting the engine, moving off, gear change, and then what's happening with feet when we stopped.